Dr. Morper, you were employed for a larger organization, is that correct, Greg? And so oftentimes we wonder, well, can an employed physician do this? Because sometimes they say they can't be a part of Take Shape for Life, and yet you've grown a global business. So how is the approach different, or how is the thought process different, or what special circumstances do we need to recognize when we consider talking to employed physicians?
Well, so I was an employed physician for about 15 years, and I was in private practice for about 10 years before that. And there are a couple of differences. Now, the town I was in, I was employed by one organization. The larger community of healthcare providers was employed by another facility that was physician-owned. And so one issue you come into with employed physicians is they may have in their contract, and this other group in our town had in their contract, that they could not earn money from any other source other than their owners. So they were not allowed by contract to engage in anything that generated income. So that can be an issue with that group of people. Now, I did not have that constraint on my practice. But they still, and they saw the light that this program offered health, and they allowed me to talk about it, but they said you could not talk about it exclusively. You had to offer other things in addition, which was okay. I was able to do that, so I had some leeway. But some physicians that are employed do not have that leeway, and that's something to think about. And just for a show of hands, I'm curious, I mean, you are almost all executive directors, so you have a lot of experience in this business. How many people have talked to medical professionals as part of what they've done so far in their business? Okay. How many of you have gotten medical professionals as coaches? So what, maybe a third? So the issue, I guess what I want to point out here is that it is challenging to get medical professionals on board. When I was practicing and somebody would have come to me to discuss this, as an internist, I wanted to see about three things. I wanted to see data that it worked not only short term, but I wanted to see data that it worked long term, okay? I wanted to know that this wasn't just some little, quick fix thing because we're kind of cynical as physicians because we've seen all these things come through that people lose weight and then they gain it back again. So I wanted to see something that was different. I wanted to see somebody, preferably in my practice, who had been on the program and had been successful. If I saw that and I saw their numbers improve, that spoke volumes to me. And so one thing I would suggest to you is if you know people in a provider's practice that has had success, that's one of your best ways into that provider, is saying, my friend so-and-so, your patient dropped their sugars to normal, da-da-da-da-da, and that may get you an audience, okay? So that's what physicians are looking for, is that kind of evidence base. And the other thing to remember, I think, in physicians, speaking as one, is we are like any other kind of tool that you have in your box, whether it's Facebook, whether it's networking groups. Physicians are one group of people to get clients from because they have control of a lot of clients. But they are by no means the only way, and sometimes trying to hit that home run and find that physician that's going to be your great next coach is not worth as much effort as it is trying to get singles with people that are not medical providers. And I'm just saying that as a physician because they are very narrow-minded at times about what they're going to believe and what they're going to listen to. And people are laughing because it's true. So I would just throw that out there, also as something to consider is sometimes it's a lot better hitting singles than trying to go for a home run. And the third thing I would say is, as far as physicians and medical professionals go, in my opinion, you're better off using them as a resource for referrals, at least to begin with, because they can be a great source of referrals. And if over time they really buy in on what you're doing and they're seeing their clients get better, fine. Then talk to them about the business opportunity. But sometimes I think it's better waiting to do that before they see some of this evidence coming along, and then maybe talk about coaching, because they are frantically busy, they're overloaded. To think about doing one other thing in their day, they can't go there, most of them. And so until they really see a good benefit, which they maybe see after they get some people on board that you've coached and you've improved, then they'd be willing to listen to you and then talk about the coaching opportunity. So, you know, I would do it in that sequence if you really want to improve your odds and not get shot down and feel like, you know, I wasted my time trying to talk to this provider. And a quick little thing, people that are in their own practice, certainly it's much easier to bring something to them because they can make the decisions. You know, like Ken was saying, you need to talk to who makes the decisions, and the physicians make the decisions, or the physician's wife makes the decisions. But you want to talk to that person, and if the physician owns his practice, he can make that decision, whereas if we work for somebody else, they can't make that decision, and you're better off focusing on that group if you have options. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to just make the assumption that when you share the different paths with the patients, you lit the path that you wanted them to travel, in a sense. Like you steered them in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Is what it sounds like. Okay, fantastic. Whitney, you know, very highly successful salesperson before you found Take Shape for Life, experienced at doing a lot of different things, and I asked you to talk about when you encounter objections in the form of resistance from the physician. Are there some that seem to occur more often that you typically encounter? And if so, how do you overcome them? And I would just ask maybe if you could add one other twist, if there's any difference in what you learned in your old sales career about overcoming objections.
Thank you. Well, I wanted to just say how excited I am to be among such a great panel of health professionals. And Dom, I mean, you know, we've been talking about working with health professionals for years, so it's an honor to be up here. Because I've always looked up to health professionals, who's always put them on a pedestal. So when I went out and started talking to health professionals, I was really scared. And I would bring my fear into it, and as soon as they would object, I would not know what to say. I would think, these guys don't want this, right? But how many people have had someone say, thank you? They're not interested, right? But what I've learned is objections mean that they are interested. So I embrace the objections, because that means that they're curious. Why are health professionals so in that state of objection, of curiosity, of asking questions? What is most important to them? Safety, right? They want to know it's safe. You said effective. What are the results going to be? And they want to know that this is going to actually work. And from my perspective, physicians are also scientists. I couldn't do biology. We speak a different language, but the science is so important. So to overcome an objection, I like to use our science and fold it into the talk and the presentation as I ask questions. So where can we find all of the studies that are available to everyone in the room? Can someone tell me? Everyone has an HP website. My website is my name plus tsfl.com/HP. And so this is studies, and they're incredible. So I'll go in and I'll start talking to a health professional about their type 2 diabetic patients, right? How many type 2 diabetic patients do you talk to? And I just so happen to have a study with me that I can provide to them, because I do find, perhaps it's because I'm a woman, perhaps because I'm blonde, perhaps it's because I'm not a traditional pharmaceutical rep. I'm a nutritional intervention specialist. I'm an anti-pharmaceutical rep. So I better have some science, because they're, you know, they talk a different language than we do, right? For me, how many doctors are in the room? Raise your hand, please. Okay, so more than half the audience is not a health professional. I cannot have a conversation at the same level another physician can I? I didn't come up with it. It's not the same language, like the Take Shape for Life language. So I want to have the science with me. What I've learned is if they object, they're interested. If they don't object and they're and they think they're not interested. So what I found is if I can fold in, I mean, do you guys know that there's a study on kids back there? Does that prove it's safe? I think beyond a doubt. So I can talk about that, and I can fold that into asking questions. So two of my main questions are, what are you currently using to help your patients who are type 2 diabetic or on medications? And what are your results with that? And then I like this other one. What is your biggest challenge to help your patients change their habits? And what I've learned, instead of interrupting and asking questions and getting in the middle of it, I zip it and I listen. But I do ask clarifying questions, because 9 times out of 10, when they'll tell me something, when they'll communicate with me, I'll repeat back what I heard them say, and I'm way off. So I need to know the language that they're speaking, and I need clarity around that. The second one is time. So that's the second objection that I get. You know, science, you know, you want to prove it's safe and effective, and then time. And, you know, as you all said, doctors are very, very busy. And so the question I want to know is how many patients are you seeing in a day, right? Because you can get a visual for what they're doing. But then you want to know, what are those people doing? What are their resources? Who's their staff? Who's their team? Who's supporting them while they're dealing with their day? Because I have a turnkey weight and disease management program that's so simple, it will actually save you time in the long run. But what I need to do is get in front of your staff and your team, and I want to find somebody who could be a cheerleader on the team, who could get on the program. So we're going to need to build a relationship. This is not a transaction. This is a long-term, relationship. How long have we all known each other? And it took time to build that trust. So I'm not going in there as I'm going to close a deal. I'm going in there as I'm opening a door. So I want to learn how to ask questions, and I want to make sure that I can get to know their staff. They'll bring me in, and you know, Dominic and I have talked about this multiple times. You have them do a pilot program to talk to as many patients as they can, right? Just like having everyone make a list. Everybody's made a list of all the people they know, right? So what's the difference between asking a physician, can you make a list of all the people that you can think of off the top of your head who could benefit from this? And then what if we did an optimal health presentation in your practice in 2 weeks from now? How many people do you think you could introduce it to? If I come in and help you, I'll make the calls with your staff, I'll train them, and I'll come in and do the optimal health presentation with you, and I'll show you how to do it a few times until you feel comfortable, or we find someone on your team who's willing to do it. And then that will relieve your time. So the best part of the physician's day then can be working with their Take Shape for Life patients, because it's actually a shorter visit, isn't it? If someone's healthy and they're not having to medicate them, wouldn't it be a quicker visit? So we're saving time. So that's my tidbit.
Fantastic, thanks so much. I just wish you would have done a little faster.
I always try to pack it in.
So the keys that I learned from that is, number one, overcome your fears. Objections are openings. They're not closed doorways, they're open doorways. Our program is the best. We're safe and effective. And what you've heard from almost all of these people in some way is that asking questions is critical. And so I think that's a perfect segue into, it's time for you to ask questions. So the microphone is there in the center of the room. If you